Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Dorset Council's Licensing Subcommittee. And the subcommittee we're here for today is for a variation of a premises licence for Chic Bar and Club. Before I go any further, I've just got to run through a few items on the agenda. Can I have an election of chairman for this meeting, please?
Councillor Susan Cockin, I propose Councillor Emma Parker as chair for this meeting.
Councillor Cathy Lugg, I'd like to second that proposal.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, apologies for absence were received from Councillors Sarah Williams and Paul Howison, substituted by Cathy Lugg and Susan Cocking.
Councillors, do you have any declarations of interest? Okay, thank you. Do we have any urgent items?
There are no urgent items, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we go forward, I will go around the room to get everybody to introduce themselves. So I've got with me Councillors Susan Cockin, and I've got Councillor Cathy Lugg, and I'm Councillor Emma Parker. I'll now go to our Democratic Services officers.
John Miles, Democratic Services.
And Elaine Tibble, Democratic Services.
Licensing officers.
Catherine Miller, Senior Licensed Officer and Report Author.
John Newcombe, Service Manager, Licensing Community Safety.
Our Legal Advisor.
I'm Laura Autry from Legal Services.
And I go to the applicant.
About that. I thought I knew, sorry. Been here long enough. Yeah, my name is Parviz Panjalizadeh Marse, and I am the applicant.
Hello, I'm Philippa Holt. I work alongside Parvis at Chic Bar and Club.
Are you okay if we address you as Mr. Parvis? Are you okay if we address you as Mr. Parvis? Parvis, okay, that's fine, thank you. And I will now move over to the police.
I'm Kirsty Gatehouse. I'm Licensing Officer for Dorset Police, covering Weymouth and Portland.
Gareth Gosling, I'm a sergeant with Dorset's alcohol licensing team, and I'll be taking more of a back seat on this one.
Thank you, and we also have a gentleman that's made representation virtual. Are you able to hear us, and could you introduce yourselves, please?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. My name is John Rosewell, and like you said, I made an application.
Thank you very much. Okay. Do you need me to go through how the procedure is going to go this afternoon, or are you all happy with the procedure of a hearing? Yeah, all good? Okay. Right, I will now move on to our licensing officer, and Catherine, if you could outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This hearing is to consider an application to vary the premises licence for Chic Bar and Club, 3 to 5 Maiden Street, Weymouth. The application is to vary the licence to extend the times for the following: live music and recorded music to cease 0300 hours. It's currently 0200 hours. Performance of dance and late night refreshment to cease 0300 hours, currently 0200 hours. Supply of alcohol on and off to cease 0300, currently 0200, and to close at 0330 hours, currently 0230 hours. The applicant has also applied to change some of the conditions on the current licence to reduce the number of patrons to be searched and scanned to 80%. Currently, all patrons must be scanned and searched. From 2200 hours until 1 hour after the end of licensable activities, Sunday to Thursday, a minimum of 2 SIA security staff on the front door, 3 SIA on a Friday to Saturday on the front door when one floor is open, and 1 SIA when both floors are open. Currently, this condition is from 2200 hours until 1 hour after the end of licensable activities. There should be a minimum of 2 SIA registered door supervisors at the front door. There should be an addition of a minimum of 1 further SIA registered door supervisor when the ground floor is in operation and 2 further SIA registered door supervisors when the first floor is in operation. Also, to change the time for the last entry for 02:30 hours, which is currently 01:30 hours. To omit 1 female SIA security to always be present. The current condition is when door supervisors are required to undertake body searches, at least 1 female supervisor is available to undertake the searches of female customers. It is, however, normal practice that staff who are required to carry out searches are normally SIA registered. The police may have a view on this as well. Security risk assessment to be provided when special events are operated. All other conditions to remain on the licence as per the one found at Appendix 2. Dorset Police have made representation to the licence and objectives prevention of crime and disorder, and their representation can be found at Appendix 3. There were also 2 representations received from interested parties. One was from Weymouth and Portland Town Council and a member of the public, and these can be found at Appendix 4. There has also been some supplementary information received. This includes the applicant's response to the Dorset Police's representation, the applicant's letter to the Weymouth Town Council members, applicant's letter to Dorset Council's licensing subcommittee, and a letter from Shield Associates, who are consultants for the applicants. This has been distributed to everybody and is on the website. I'd also like to remind members that the Chic Bar and Club also falls within a cumulative impact zone that covers Weymouth Town Centre. In the Dorset Council Statement of Licensing Policy under Appendix 8, paragraphs 7.7 and 7.2, puts the onus on the applicant to demonstrate how the new premises will not add to the antisocial behaviour or crime and disorder. It is for applicants to demonstrate that their application would not add to the cumulative impact of such licensed premises in the area and give good reason for the council to depart from its own policy. Members will also be aware that the licence that was known as Actors was held by the applicant was also subject to a review and revocation of the licence in January 2022, but reopened in July 22 following an appeal at the Magistrates' Court. The applicant has also had 4 tens in the past 6 months, 2 of which were objected to by the police and 2 of which were not, and there were no issues resulting from these tens. There have been no other representations received from any of the responsible authorities. I'd like to remind members that the steps available to them today is to either modify the conditions of the licence or reject the whole or part of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for Catherine with regards to the report? I had one question, but you've answered that. Thank you. Parvis, do you have any questions for Catherine with regards to the report? Any questions for Catherine?
No, no questions, thank you.
Mr. Rosewell, do you have any questions for Catherine with regards to the report that's been read out?
I'm just trying to find it on the website, and so not at the moment, no.
Thank you. Right, okay, thank you. I will now move on to the applicant. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Most of the things I wanted to say, I think you already have documents. And I don't want to be repetitive. And most of you know the history of the club. And the first thing I wanted to say, I wanted to thank everyone for coming to this meeting and organizing it. And especially thank to Sergeant Gosling and Kirsty and Catherine, who'll be working closely with me and allowing this to happen, to come and accepting or this proposal in principle. And I hope it will go through. With regard to objections, the town council, I did have contact with them. And the chairman said that he wished I had attended the town council meeting and explained my proposal, but I didn't know about the town council meeting. And he said he cannot withdraw it because the committee has to withdraw it. So I don't know what, so we just left as it is. But their concern has been answered on my various letters to the town council and also to the licensing department of the council. which is basically the licensing objective to be adhered to, which we do and we will. With regard to the neighbor's complaint, I have a feeling, because he sent 2 video recording of the club operating, one of them was just completely blank and black. You couldn't hear nothing or see nothing. And the other one, I could see through the windowsill. And by recognizing the windowsill, I know the person, but I have not been in touch with him. I think, and I hope that is the same person. He bought an apartment opposite the flat further down the road, halfway down. We do have neighbors directly opposite. They never had complaint at all, even when it was actors. That guy, before COVID, came to see me about the noise and all that. We said we can control the crowd, and we did it. He came to our club. He's from London. And we had a drink together, and he was happy at the time. Since then, I never saw or heard of him until this letter. And I think his concern was, obviously we have to take it serious, but it's not as serious as he made it regarding littering in the street. Littering, if you go outside a kebab shop or McDonald's, or which they're shut now, that is where the littering. We don't have no littering outside. The noise is very, very limited. It's nothing like what actors used to be. The town is not like it used to be. So the 2 issues of town being quiet, and we've been very strict with our customers. So we are, we have not had any issues with that side of it. I have written things in, the police objection with the 80%. I spoke lengthily with Kirsty. We've been talking about from day one. The only thing I'm a bit concerned, always been concerned, it says on their license and all the letters, it says all person. It doesn't say patron, it says all person has to be ID'd and checked. That includes me. So when I go to my own club, I open the door, I ID myself, I check my pocket. I don't think that is really necessary. We have had issues where we booked bands and performers. On one occasion, we booked a local band. They were all in their 40s. The drummer, even though they were told to bring ID, he forgot his ID. He lived in Portland. So the drummer could not start. People came in to watch them, and it was quite embarrassing. We also had one occasion where the 2 DJs were not allowed to come back in after 1:30, New Year's Eve. You probably heard about it. I'd already paid them a special rate, but the security wouldn't let them in. So those are special circumstances. The other issue which I'm concerned, when it says all person, means everybody. Even Prince Charles, well, King Charles are coming, I have to body search him. Mr. Gosling coming, afterwards, so that is a person. I wanted to change that to be omitted, that person, and to be included, the people who are allowed to come in without ID will be myself, my manager, staff, my security, performers, my maintenance, because we've had a couple of issues when fire alarm went middle of the night. Electrician come in, couldn't come in. Luckily, our fire alarm box was by the door, so he could organize the day. He was not allowed to come in. So it'll be performers, maintenance, especially paramedic. If a paramedic comes technically, by this law, we have to stop them and search them, go through their bags, which could be contaminated, all the medical equipment. I know it's not practical, and I will not do that, but that paper says that is what we have to do. That area, the police, fire authority, Catherine, she's not allowed in. So we have to come to some kind of agreement, and maybe omit the 80%. The 80% is not exactly 80%. That was also a reason for it. The reason being, if my son and my daughter, who are quite highly important people in medical, and my son, or very, professional people, if they come in, we have to body search them. And I found that very humiliating and embarrassing. That is what I meant by 80%. It could be my friends, it could be my old colleagues, not normal customers. So the 80%, if the police doesn't agree that it should still be there at 100%, I accept that, but I would like to make my other proposal, which the authorities and myself know that, to be allowed without the ID and searches. So we have had a few tents, which Catherine said, and we had no problem. And the local paper gets very excited. I don't know if they're listening about it. It might be relevant or not. They always come with negativity. If they are listening, please change my picture, because that was taken 15 years ago, and they're still using the same one. I know at the end, you are going to say, if we don't agree with your decision, we have the right to appeal. I hope we will like your decision, and I hope we can work together. I don't have the energy or the mental ability, physical ability, financial ability to appeal, and I would like us to work together rather than going through all the process which I went back last year, or this year, so I was last year. I don't want to go through all that again. It's best to talk and work together, and we get better. That club has been a nightclub since early 60s, and always been a nightclub, late nightclub, always had 24-hour license. When the cumulative impact zone came into, that club existed. So it's not as if I'm creating a brand new building, brand new club. I know we're trying to work, to make it busier, or make it open later. So that's all I can say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions?
Hello. The 80%, how are you going to define? I know you're defining, but you're expanding that 80% further and further to the band and everyone else, now your family members. And, when you go on holiday, you're searched. It's not that humiliating. And if you haven't got anything to hide, I don't see why. The emergency services, yes, I completely agree. We would have to look at the emergency service and the licensing team. But I think I don't understand why you're even as you're sitting there talking, you're expanding this 80%. And also sometimes it might cause controversy at the door as you're picking that person could be searched and that person's not. So how are you going to choose one person and not another person?
The 80% I would like to omit, because we are working with the police, and Kirsty did say they are not happy with it, maybe at a later stage. So the 80% doesn't. So 100% of the people to be searched, 100% patrons, customers, not me, not my staff, not the fire brigade. That's what I meant. Family, they are not really that important, because I can, it's just sometimes a bit awkward. Or friends, I've got my ex-colleagues who used to work in professional businesses. But that is not really the important one. What worries me, if we don't check the fire brigade or the police I'm not good get caught. Your license says every person. It doesn't say patrons. So the 80% is off. I would like to take that off. So I'm not expanding, I'm reducing drastically.
So you would be content if we said 100% except for emergency services and licensing team?
And performance and maintenance.
So you're still saying?
Yeah, the maintenance.
Okay.
Maintenance is if you have a pipe burst, then the plumber comes. I've got ID, not ID.
Okay. Well, they come in with ID, but that's obviously you're not particularly want to bend on that. The omit of the female security staff. Oh,
Because we've got this one on.
this one is on because I'm asking the question at the moment. So you're saying in your application that you don't want to have a fully trained SIA security officer, a female. So how are you going to manage that? What is the percentage of your female clientele? So how are you, if this person, this member of staff, what happens if they're working behind the bar? Have you got to call them backwards and forwards every time? Sorry, I haven't finished my question yet. So are you going to call them back and forwards every time a female person would want to come into your club? It seems a bit unreasonable to keep calling that member of staff backwards and forwards. How are you going to manage that?
So we have somebody standing at front of house. So we've got, when you enter the premises, there's the front door, and then there's kind of like a walkway. So next to the ID scanner, we always have somebody standing at the front of house anyway, because we try to encourage, although it's not always the case, we try to encourage sort of table service going around. So there is always somebody there. So it wouldn't be a case of calling somebody backwards and forwards. We'd always have someone standing there.
So you'd always have a female member of staff at the door?
The reason is not we don't want female security. It is extremely difficult to get female security. My security company, they are from Bournemouth. Even in Bournemouth, they struggle. One night, they couldn't get any security. Ages ago, we had to shut the club. Another night, they couldn't get any security. They had to get a lady who just had a baby from Southampton to come all the way to Weymouth for 2 or 3 hours and drive all the way back again. And I don't see any clubs in Weymouth have female security, but as I said, I'm not against it. We are still going to have them, but if we don't have it one night, we don't have to shut.
So you've got a member of staff who's going to be prepared to be trained?
Or a female security. We are not going to cut off the female security because the company have got now some regular ones coming in. But occasionally with ladies, they have ladies' problem. They also have kids, children who are off sick, so they can't come, and they normally cancel on the last minute. That is the time we can have our own staff.
Thank you.
I'm concerned that you want to omit performers from the searches, given that I know a number of musical performers who actively partake in the drug scene. I'm extremely concerned about that. And I'd like to know, do you make people who are coming to the club to perform or to do work of the requirements to be searched and provide ID before they arrive? Because you're saying that people arrive without ID.
Yes, we are supposed to search an ID from 8 o'clock in the evening. So if I have a plumber 7 o'clock in the evening, we don't have to. Now, the performers, the reason I say that, we do tell them that we're going to search. We do tell them that we are going to bring their ID. Occasionally, sometimes they forget. So that is what I meant. I don't think they're going to, if whatever they do outside, they can't stop it. Now, the drug dealing, back onto drug dealing, I didn't want to say anything, but when my club was shut, there was a lot of comparison between my club and other clubs. I'm just going to make one little comparison. We have not had anyone barred from my club because there was, we are very, very strict. Every time we have a pub watch meeting to do the comparison, in the last 8-9 meetings which I've been, every week there is clubs where people have been barred in possession of Class A or using Class A or whatever. Every time there's 5 or 6 or 10 people even are barred, and Kirsty and Catherine do attend the pub watch meeting, they know. So there is things still going on. I'm doing my best to stop it. So I don't want to feel as if I'm being choked. Okay? Thank you.
The temporary events notices that you've applied for and been granted over, I think you've had 4, haven't you, altogether. So 2 were objected to and 2 weren't objected to. Then the 2 that weren't objected to, did you run the club those nights the same as you would any other night with regards to the conditions that you have on your licence?
Yes, we did. The reason we had to apply for 10 was for that extra hour, the same condition to be applied, and it did. The only issue which we had was on New Year's Eve, because we had the 1:30 last entry was still imposed, but we had license till 4 o'clock. And I had a DJ which I booked from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and I paid him a lot of money because New Year's Eve they charge more. He came in about 2:15. The security wouldn't let him in. So he messaged my main DJ, resident DJ, who booked him, said, "Can you come and get me?" Resident DJ was playing. Resident DJ goes outside to bring him in. The resident DJ wasn't allowed to come back in either. So I had 230 people in, they had to go. By 2:30 when I had 4 o'clock license. That was the only issue. The other issue was not, there was no other issue any other times. The reason the other 2 cases was objected was that I applied late. Police always object, and then we work together, and they come here, and we settle our differences. I applied too late, I think it was, for it to come to the committee, and I think that's the reason it was.
If it was late, it would come to the committee anyway if it was objected to, because it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any further questions?
Not at the moment, Chair.
No. Catherine, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, please, Chair. It's kind of got 2 elements to this question for Parviz. One, really an opportunity to explain the importance of searching. But secondly, from what Parviz was saying, I'm slightly concerned by the fact that nobody's been barred. I think that my understanding from that was correct. So can I ask for a bit more detail, perhaps for the benefit of the subcommittee, around the search that took place on the 13th of May at the club, where a knuckle duster was discovered on a person? So I'm firstly just keen to understand quite how important the searching is. But secondly, and perhaps more concerningly, is to understand why that person's not been barred.
Yes, that shows the intensity of our search. The guy was searched outside, and the weapon, as Sergeant Gosley will call it before, was confiscated at the time. And one of the security went to put it in his car just to lock it so that the guy doesn't get it back. And the guy just ran away. Now, I met Kirsty last week, and she wanted a mugshot of that person to see whether we can search to see who that person is. I haven't done that because I've been doing other things. So I have also asked our chairman of the, well, I wanted to speak to the chairman of the pub watch. The first one resigned, and the second one, the vice chairman, I spoke to him 2 or 3 times since last week to talk about it, to see whether he would recognize it or whether he heard anything about it. Then we can put him. That is a major incident, which he will probably be barred for about 2 or 3 years. So I haven't left it. I've not left it. The CCTV is still there. We can, search it, and I get perhaps Jamie Craig, who's our vice chairman. He knows people in town. My security are from Bournemouth, so they won't know the person locally. And we will find out. So that is still in hand. It's not as if we've left it.
Do you just... Oh, yeah, I've got one as well, actually.
Sorry, I just want to be clear that perhaps for the benefit of the members of the subcommittee, that whilst pub watch bans can take place, there can also be bans within individual venues as well. So that's perhaps one for your consideration.
my follow-up, if I may, is it's concerning that that was found on somebody. It's more concerning that the person that confiscated it off of that person took it outside to lock it in their car. Surely you have a secure place within, say, if that was a weapon that was used for something else, and obviously, you know, you had it and the police needed it, or licensing or whatever, surely you've got a secure place that you would keep items like that and to be able to report them.
Yeah, that wasn't in the club. It was outside by the entrance in the club on the pavement. So obviously the guy who they were taking his weapon off him is struggling. The security took it off quickly, but he couldn't come and put it in a safe there and there. So his car was outside, shut the car, locked the car, and then as soon as the guy ran away, I was there. He gave me the knuckle duster it was, and I put it in the locked safe, and I rang the police, and they come and collected it. So that was like an emergency thing. He wasn't putting it there overnight or taking it home. It had to be there quick before the guys start jumping on him, take it off again.
Thank you for clarifying that. Is the guy, is he known to your security staff? So he's somebody that's not frequented your club before?
A strange thing, which I was concerned at the time, the same guy, this was like about 10 to 1 in the morning. He has been to other clubs through the night with that weapon on him. And nobody obviously took any notice or didn't find it, and we found it.
Okay, sorry, it's your time for questions.
No further questions, Chair. Thank you.
I don't know if this is a question for the police and Parvis.
Oh, no,
So,
the police we will do. These
oh,
are
right,
purely
that's right.
questions.
Have you had anyone else with weapons that you've had to confiscate recently, within the last 18 months?
No, only on New Year's Eve, my staff were quite cautious who will come in. You know, they have the fancy dress with a sword. It's not a real sword or anything which is any sharp. They will take them, put them away, and then on the way out, they take it back with them. So that's not confiscation. That's a fancy dress equipment, party clothes, custom. So that was it.
Thank you. I will now go to Mr. Rosewell. Mr. Rosewell, do you have any questions for Parvis? And I do stress that these are questions that will need answering, not statements at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I do, and thank you for the invite. The incident on the 13th with the knuckle duster, and I want to go back to the point that was raised about the pub watch bar, but also a bar on the premises. Now, how will you, Mr. Parvis, ensure that that person doesn't come back into Chic? Because that's a responsibility.
Yes. Who is this chap who's talking?
Sorry, my name is John Rosewell.
Oh, one of the... Yeah. 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 The actual objection, which is the one which, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure who the person is. There's no... yes. Obviously...
So your security staff know what he looks like?
Sorry?
Does the security staff know what he looks like?
Yes, the security, obviously they know what they look like. The security did not, if they see him, they will probably stop him again because he had a distinguished, appearance, because normal people with a suit and they're not carrying a knuckle duster on.
What happens if it's different security staff?
Sorry?
What happens if it is different security staff? So other security
we
staff?
had the same. We had the same security staff. And that's that incident is not closed. We are still looking to find the person. Kirsty did say to find a mugshot of that. And I can't do it on my own. I mean, to look for the person. I wanted to get member of Pub Watch, my staff, security all together to find the person. So we did find the issue is our security is tight. We confiscated the weapon outside the club. The guy ran away. So we did our job, and I'm still not giving up on that. I'm still searching for the same guy.
You have a mugshot?
Sorry?
Do you have a mugshot?
No, it's on the camera. It's on. I don't have it with me, no. It's in the
Okay,
club,
so it's
yes.
not a priority for you to get a mugshot of this person and show it to the rest of your security staff and go, don't let this guy back in. That's not a priority for you.
Yes, we know that. And that guy has been to all around the pub in Weymouth.
I understand that. I understand
And
that. But
also, I had advice from the police to get the mugshot. I'm on it. I didn't bring it with me. I'm sorry. But if you come to my club, I can show it to you.
Okay, but it's not a priority. Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. The incident on the 13th.
Excuse me, Mr. Rosewell.
The incident on the 13th, there's another.
1 second. Okay, thank you. I believe Mr. Parvis has answered that question. Do you have any further questions?
I do. There was another incident on the 13th, later that evening, or maybe before. I think it was later. So if the knuckle duster was at 1:30, this was later that evening, with a girl screaming and shouting outside on the road. And the police were called to that incident as well. I don't know, maybe the sergeant has a record of that. Do you think that they were related?
First
Mr.
one, I
Parvis.
don't like to people to interfere when I'm talking because I cannot hear. I want to talk, please. Now, I explained that incident with Kirsty. Kirsty, about the lady who was screaming that same night. Early part of the night when I was going to my club about 9 o'clock, I saw a young lady shouting and screaming with vile swearing outside the kebab shop around the corner. So I put my head down, carried on, hoping that she don't see me or follow me. I went to the club. Half an hour later, that same lady was put on Pub Watch. And I don't know they're listening. The lady was put on Pub Watch and everyone was looking for her. Then she came back on Maiden Street, shouting and screaming, kicking the cars. My staff and security went out to see what's happening. And female staff, they stopped her outside Central Hotel, where all the homeless people are. And apparently she was just gone on completely mental. The police came later, after they held her on the floor, trying to calm her, trying to give her water. When the police came, I went to just to make sure that everybody's all right. The police told me off. He said, can I help? I said, it's my staff helping the lady in there. Back off, really shouting in my ear. I said, I just want my staff all right, because they're helping. But they are helping. Do you want them urgent? I said, no, but I've just come to see if they need anything, you need anything, they need first aid. Back off, really loud. So anyway, I went with my security. And then the manager of the Central Hotel came and took her in, but she was in a bad state. She didn't want to see the police. When the police arrived, she wet herself. And my staff tried to wipe and to clean, and our customer care we provided, and that was it. So it's nothing to do with us at all. No,
Okay,
no, she wasn't.
I appreciate what you're saying, and you said please don't interrupt me, so I didn't interrupt you. But my question was, you see, first of all, I don't. This happened, I'm pretty sure, after the knuckle duster incident, and you've said it's happened before, but I don't think that was the case. It happened afterwards. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning, with the girl. So when I said, is there a relationship between the knuckle duster incident and this girl? That was my question, but you're now saying it happened before the knuckle duster incident, so that makes me mute. Can we move on to the littering?
To the...
We've had... Pardon?
First.
Well, just to answer that initial question about whether the two incidents were related. So they're two separate incidents, and the second incident that you're referring to, the lady in question did not attend the venue. She was not a patron, and she was not, to our knowledge, in any way connected to the knuckle dusting incident.
She was there about 9:30, 10 o'clock. That is, the security is written on their report. Absolutely, she is a resident in Central Hotel where homeless people are, and most of them are not in a good way. The knuckle duster was 10 to 1. 3 o'clock, I was home in bed. We shut 2:30. Well, we shut 2 o'clock because nobody, especially that Friday, we shut 1:30 because when there's no customer, we normally shut and go home. So everybody was gone. 3 o'clock, we are not in the street.
Thank you. Mr. Rosewell, do you have any
No,
more
on,
questions?
stop for a sec. You just said that Friday. That Friday. This search happened, the knuckle duster incident happened on the 13th of May. Yeah, which is a Saturday.
13th of May falls after 12 o'clock. So it was 20 to 1, 10 to 1 in the morning. So that becomes 13th.
My apologies. Okay, fine.
The lady was on the evening, which is 12th of May.
I'll understand that now with the
Okay,
the
fine.
timings.
Okay.
That's fine. Mr. Rosewell,
All
do you have any more questions?
Yeah, the littering. We've received into our premises notification from Dorset Council about throwing cigarette butts onto the street out of our window, and a notification to stop doing that. It came from the cleaning team on the ground that then have to go through the street and clean all of that up. I spoke to the council about it and explained that we don't smoke, so therefore it's not possible for us to throw cigarette butts out of the window. But we noticed that outside the club there are a lot of cigarette butts, and especially cigarette butts and roll-up papers thrown down, which is a concern. So although I understand Mr. Pulvis talked about littering, and you think about that as crisp packets and glasses and blah, blah, blah. But what will he do about the cigarette butts?
Mr. Rosewell, that's not a concern for this committee. It would be down to liaise with the street cleaning, whoever from the department of the council that sent the letter. That's not relevant to this hearing.
All right. I understand that.
Do you have any further questions?
I do. They're coming. What does Mr. Pulvis propose to do to ensure that patrons arriving and leaving the premises or offer or give up as little disturbance to the residents as possible? Now,
There is a condition on the licence with regards to signage and making sure that people leave responsibly.
What signage?
There are signs inside the club asking patrons to leave respectfully.
Okay, are those the same signs that I saw when I went there? And I'll go back to right at the beginning, what Mr. Pulver says is when he went, he said he knew who I was and that we had a drink together and that I was happy. Now, you said to me, don't make a statement, but I have to, because we didn't have a drink together and I wasn't happy. We may be cordial, but that doesn't mean I'm happy. When I was inside, I looked at the signage, and for a resident, it didn't seem adequate to ensure that there was reasonable behaviour or behaviour that didn't disturb the residents. So, and I said that to Mr. Pulvich. So, is that the signage he's going to? Is he going to depend on that? Does he think that signage is adequate?
The signage is adequate for the licence, and that's the main part of it. It was a condition put on the licence, and obviously the licensing officers are happy that the signage is good enough. If there is issue there with patrons leaving that are causing trouble, then obviously the relevant departments need to be notified if there is antisocial behaviour, not just the licence holder.
So Mr. Pulvers, when your patrons leave, you won't be instructing your security staff to say to them something like, you're in a residential area, please be careful or keep it down. Once they leave your premises, it's for you, that's what they do then after that is not a problem for you.
It's something that Mr. Parvis can do should he wish to, but it's not a condition. It's not something that he has to do to comply with his licence.
Right. All right. Okay. I understand that.
Any further questions?
I do. Bear with me, please. I'm just going through my notes. I'm away, so in essence, I'm looking at my laptop or my iPad and my memory. So, and trying to write notes down. So bear with me, please.
Mr. Rosewell, if you're not too sure...
I'm here. And
I'm just saying, if you're not too sure with regards to the questions, obviously, I'm sure that everybody in the room would be happy that we came back to you if you would like us to move on, if you can think of any more questions that you should have.
Yeah, okay, great. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
I will come back to you, and obviously you will have your chance to have a say in a moment, and you will also have your chance to sum up at the end, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Right, thank you. You've done your question. I will now come to the responsible authorities, and that is the police. Do you have anything that you would like to add to your report?
Thank you, Chair. So, as per usual, we've outlined most of what we want to say in the supplementary information. But to follow on from what Parvis has said, we've just got a couple of things. So, in terms of the conditions that were attached to the licence when it was granted again, as we've mentioned in there, he agreed to all of these conditions when it was initially granted again. So that's why we are quite happy that they are there. And as has already been pointed out, they clearly are working. in terms of the searching people and things like that. It's clearly been an effective deterrent compared to what was happening previously. So in terms of who can come in, who needs to be searched, things like that, and he mentioned sort of the emergency services, things like that, there is already legislation. So if a police officer needs to enter a premises, they can do, paramedics, things like that. There's already legislation in place. They don't need to be subject to these searches. And we're mentioning the staff. Unfortunately, previously, when we've had issues, not just here, but it happens in other premises across the county, unfortunately, staff have been known to be involved in this criminal activity, sort of drug dealing, things like that. Money's tight for everyone at the moment. There are some people that will go to whatever lengths they can to make a little bit of extra money on the side. So the fact that staff have previously been involved, that's why we've mentioned already that we'd like to see that staff are still included in those searches. We'd possibly be okay with making the exemption for the DPS or premises licence holder, of which Parvez is both, because it is his premises. But in terms of the people that he's employing and things like that, we think that they still need to be subject to these searches. In terms of the searches and the female member of door staff, it's obviously something that we'd like to still encourage and still see. And like you said, hopefully they will still try and get someone. But we're trying to be proportionate in the sense that we are happy with a female member of staff being there as well. There's a lot of conditions on this licence that have been agreed by Parvez and all other parties involved. And up until this point, things have been working quite well. So we're willing to, like we say, compromise on certain elements of this in the hope that it can still be a successful, safe place for people to go and enjoy a night out. And in terms of how we do things in the police, it is best practice for females to search females, males to search males, but it's not always a possibility. So it can be that a female is present when a male is searching and things like that. That's how we do things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarge, but that's how we can operate. So we are satisfied that that could be the case here as well, which is why we've said what we've said in terms of agreeing in principle to the omission of a female member of SIA trained security to be present at all times. In terms of the reduction in SIA staff in general, again, we want to make sure that there was still that possibility that it's not just Fridays and Saturdays that those levels are maintained, and that Sunday through to Thursday, that there's this risk assessment in place. For example, on a bank holiday weekend, a Sunday could still also be a busy night. So we want to make sure that Parvez understands, and I believe he does, that a written risk assessment that can be referred to assess whether you do need that additional member of staff has been undertaken, just to make sure that sufficient numbers of security are still present at the premises. I think that was all. Did you have anything to answer?
I think the only thing I would add is I'm grateful for Catherine for raising the issue of the cumulative impact zone that's in place. And I just want to put a bit of context behind where we've been at with that. So you'll note that there is an extension applied for lots of licensable activities from 2 till 3. That, if I'm honest, was something that was really sort of something that we gave careful consideration to. It's not to the level that it was previous, and we're really keen to make sure and have it on record that we wouldn't want the creep back towards those hours. So if there's any sort of suggestion of moving back towards there, then I would have definitely something to say about that. The reason why we have been less inclined to object to those hours, and again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to bring it before a subcommittee for that final decision to be made, but it's also useful as well to get the perspective of a local resident as well. But from our perspective, all things concerned, we felt that the existing conditions, if they stay largely as they are, as we would like them to be following this hearing, we feel that that extension with those conditions would not adversely impact on the area any more than it does at the moment. Now, that said, we will be closely monitoring how things are. As it stands, it's not what we would class to be as the kind of last venue open in the area. And that for me is where I tend to have the most of my problems. That's, just to make the point that the last, somebody was to research and see the last place in Weymouth, I don't want everybody thinking that I've got a problem with them at the moment, but it's just a general pattern that we see elsewhere in the county, that where the last place is to get a drink is where we get the most disorder. So I just wanted to put that context behind it. But other than that, I haven't really given much attention to the report created by Shield Associates, simply because, and I hope the committee would understand that it doesn't represent our view. Shield Associates are a qualified, they're an experienced consultant acting on behalf of Parves, a paid consultant that they wouldn't have access to the level of data and the information and expertise within my team. So just to make that point clear, but I think Kirsty's already touched upon the powers of emergency services. I really would encourage you not to have to look too much at that. Essentially, if the paramedics and police need to be in there, as is the same case for licensing officers as well, and I'm sure John and Catherine will sort of confirm that if they do need to go in regardless of conditions, then they certainly can do under alternative legislation. Nothing else from us, thank you.
Councillors, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, the incident with the knuckle duster on the 13th of May, have you had any, been called out to the club prior to that, since it reopened, with any problems or incidences? I'm trying to think of the right words. My mind went blank then, sorry. Yeah.
No, we haven't had any incidents like that, no.
I just want to go back to the temporary events notices, because obviously there's been 4 altogether. You've objected on 2. Is there any reason why you didn't object on the other 2?
From memory, I think that they were over bank holiday weekends where we'd had a lot of, I think one of them was Easter potentially, and the other I think was one of the other many bank holidays that we seem to have had recently. And there were quite a few premises in the area that had applied for them, and given what else was going on in Weymouth, we sort of deemed that there was going to be quite a lot of people around anyway, and the more opportunities for people to be spread out rather than concentrated in particular areas was actually going to be to our benefit, to save large groups all having to go to the same place. So we decided that over that weekend, I don't think any of the temporary event notices were objected to at all. The ones that we did object to were on weekends where there weren't specific events going on for the town or anything like that, and that's why there was some objected to, some not. It was sort of, we treated everyone the same on the busy weekends, and the odd ones, that was when we decided that we just needed to make sure that everything was going to be safe by objecting and making sure that the conditions to the licence were properly applied so that they could be adhered to.
Thank you. That's the only questions I have. Thank you. Parvis, do you have any questions for the police? Okay, thank you. Catherine, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Mr. Rosewell, do you have any questions for the police?
No, I'm grand, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everybody has had their say. I'm mindful, Mr. Rosewell, that you thought that you might have some more questions. for Parvis. Did you have any more questions?
No, but you did say that there would be a statement at the end, so I'll wait for that.
You will have a chance to sum up at the end, yes.
Yes. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Thank you. Mr. Rosewell, my mistake, because you're not physically sat in front of me. I forget about people virtually, so my bad. You actually now have a chance to make a statement if you wish. This isn't your summing up. This is just to give your view and add to your representation that you sent in to us.
Okay. Thank you. Again, I appreciate everyone's time and effort in this. I understand it is quite stressful. It seems to me that the risk assessments that are meant to take place is we've not seen. I've not seen any of those, or given examples of, in actual fact, what are the increased risks of opening up later? Things like there'll be more under the influence of alcohol, a louder noise, the last venue open, all that. So it seems to me that this risk assessment is just being washed over as a term that won't really happen. The other thing is the training that will be provided. There's no examples of training that will be given, or any activities that'll happen. And there should be a record of this under the current license. And it kind of surprises me that there's no referral to this at all, especially if records are kept. Surely Mr. Parvis would have access to that straight away. The issue with Shield Associates, I'm just struggling with their input into this. As I understand it, Mr. Parvis paid for Shield Associates to do this report, but there's two elements to that need consideration. One is if he paid for it, there's a potential for bias, and the second thing is in this report, I don't know of any local residents that were spoken to by Shield Associates, so therefore their report is not all-encompassing, and thus, and I haven't read it. So, and this is the first I've heard of Shield doing a report, but those two items, I think, would need consideration as well before a decision on the license. And I'll end it there. You said that at the end I'll be able to surmise. And I'd like to do that then. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions for you, but just a couple of points with regards to the risk assessment and regards to any bookkeeping, or not bookkeeping, sorry, that's the wrong words, training that Mr. Parvis puts in place for his staff. That is available for our licensing officers to view, and it is available for the police to view. So should there be any concerns there with regards to what Mr. Parvis is doing, then obviously the police and the licensing team will pick up on that. The risk assessment is an important document, and that will have to be undertaken. That's the first point. The second with regards to Shields, it's entirely at Mr. Parvis's discretion who he wishes to view his papers. Should he wish an outside body to pay and do that, that's fine. And obviously we've been given written representation from them. Many applicants do it. We do get a lot of representations from applicants that have got somebody else to look at their paperwork. And obviously we just take on board the comments that have been put into that report. Again, Mr. Parvis would have been within his rights to have had a solicitor or a barrister represent him today, if he so wished. That's how the licensing hearings work. Does that clarify a few things for you?
Yeah, I get that Mr. Parvis can pay for whoever he wants, but my point wasn't that. My point was for the committee or whoever's reading Shield Associates to go, they didn't talk to local residents. And local residents have quite despite what Mr. Parvis says about the people staying across the road from him that haven't said anything, local residents and Shield didn't talk to local residents, and therefore, is it a complete report? That's my point. I don't know. It might be a moot point. So
yeah. Again, they wouldn't necessarily need to liaise with residents. I mean, the residents would have had the right to object to this application. It would have been advertised as all of this variation. It would have been advertised. Notes would have been put up, so anybody within the vicinity that had a concern would have been well within their rights, as you did, to make comment either for or against this variation.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, do you have any questions for Mr. Rosewell? Parvis, do you have any questions for Mr. Rosewell? And there are questions that will warrant an answer, not a statement.
Everything is covered by your comments and the police's comment and my representation. And I thank you for your time. It's taken too long, but
do you have any questions for Mr. Rosewell?
No questions, thank you.
Catherine, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I move on to summing up, I just want to clarify that everybody has asked all the questions that they feel as though they've asked. Is there anything that anybody else wants to ask? No? You all good?
I'd like to ask Mr. Parvis.
Okay, yep.
Mr. Parvis, in the interest of moving this along, do you have an objection to your door staff asking people to be quiet on their way out?
no, not at all. Contrary to that, a lot of residents or customers go from clubs at the seafront and the club by the harbour. There are big clubs at the harbour and they walk past our club. While they walk in, they shout and scream. We can't obviously tell. We do tell them off, but they're walking the public road, public highway. And I just bring on this thing, this littering and all that. By street pastors very kindly give people lollipop and Kit Kats and all that to customers, not me. Obviously, they put in their mat, they put it on floors. Well, I can't go down the road, excuse me, I don't do that because they're drunk. I get my head kicked in. So that is, so we do tell them to be quiet, obviously we do. And the busiest time around that area is after we shut. And so we're going to be more vigilant if and when, I hope, we open until 3. Obviously we keep people quiet. We don't want to disturb our neighbors. And as I said, I've got few neighbors directly opposite, never complain, never. They say we don't hear a dicky bird, but they're used to it, because some people come in new and, obviously they expect it to be a quiet road, and then obviously it's not. Even if our club is shut, it still will be busy because people walk in from the seafront to the harbour, vice versa, and they always walk past through there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm now going to move on to summing up, and I am going to sum up backwards. So I will start with Mr. Rosewell. Mr. Rosewell, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, thank you. If you don't mind. Mr. Parvis said that because I'm new or new to the area, and it makes the assumption that my opinion doesn't matter. But unfortunately,
I don't
it does.
think Mr. Parvis was referring to you directly. I just think he was saying about new people that come to the area, and obviously new people that come to his club as well.
Okay. Now, when Actors was closed in the period from December 2020 till for that year, there was a marked difference in living on Maiden Street. It was quiet, it was peaceful. There was all of the activity along the harbour and all of the activity along the beach, and people walking between the two all the time. So I understand what he says about people walking past and shouting, but that's few and far between. The issue with the noise on the street or from people arriving and leaving from Actors. We're concerned about, like Sergeant said, is the creep. The creep back to the way it was. And it seems to me that this application is just a creep back to the way it was. Also, the last venue open is a concern because that's a magnet. So those are the two main concerns, or the two main closing statements that I have. Is one is the creep, and we need to consider that carefully, and the last venue open. That needs careful consideration because, like I said, it needs a magnet. And okay, I'm done. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. I will now move on to the police. Do you have anything to add to summing up, please?
No, I don't think we have anything further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Parvis, do you have anything to add to summing up?
Yes, I'll be very brief. The crime creeping up or creeping in, as was mentioned, there is no record, but it shows on the crime record of our venue. There hasn't been no crime because the diligent way of we operating. And as I said earlier, the people walking from one club to another, you can see it on camera, you can see it on town camera. And so I don't think our noise level or crime level is nowhere near as excessive as used to be. In fact, at the moment, is zero. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, do you have anything to add to summing up?
No, I don't. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'm now going to draw this meeting to a close, and we are going to go and make our decision. Our decision will come out via email. Anybody that has made a representation on this variation will get a copy of the decision notice. Once you receive the full decision notice, obviously, then you will have 21 days to appeal to Weymouth Magistrates Court. Are you content with that? I will now just ask our legal advisor, Lara, to clarify that we've covered all legal aspects.
Yes, Chair, I think it's been covered.
Thank you very much. Councillors, can I have a vote to go into exempt business, please? Thank you. So we will now go into exempt business, and I declare this meeting closed, and I thank you all for your time. Thank you.